we get into the video, I wanted to share a special tool that David and I have been using for over 2 years to manage our inventory on Amazon. The tool is called SoStocked, and it is a very powerful tool. It's designed specifically for inventory management. If you're in a physical products business selling on Amazon, you need to be in stock, especially with the inventory restrictions lately. This tool is incredibly powerful. If you're having trouble with inventory management, this might be a tool to help you. SoStocked is partnered with Firing Demand, and they've offered our guests, our listeners, a 30-day free trial. So click the link in the video description to get 30-day free trial. On to the video. Before we get into the video, I wanted to share a special tool that David and I have been using for over 2 years to manage our inventory on Amazon. The tool is called SoStocked, and it is a very powerful tool. It's designed specifically for inventory management. If you're in a physical products business selling on Amazon, you need to be in stock, especially with the inventory restrictions lately. This tool is incredibly powerful. If you're having trouble with inventory management, this might be a tool to help you. SoStocked is partnered with Firing Demand, and they've offered our guests, our listeners, a 30-day free trial. So click the link in the video description to get 30-day free trial. On to the video.
Welcome, everyone, to the Firing the Man podcast. On today's episode, we are joined by Matthew Stafford. Matthew is the mad scientist behind the data and development of Build, Grow, and Scale revenue optimization system. Although he won't tell you himself, he's also become known as the top Shopify optimization expert in the game. Matthew has a keen eye for obstacles on the customer journey and is great at interpreting data to find the diamonds in the rough. He also has the ability to see things from a business owner's perspective, having run his own companies for the past 27 years. On today's episode, we are diving deep into conversion rate optimization and how online sellers can use this metric as a measuring stick for success. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Welcome. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. So can you please share with our listeners a little bit about yourself and your path in the e-commerce world?
Yeah, so it started actually by accident. I was in a service business. I had a commercial concrete company. And so we traveled all over the country doing Menard, Home Depots, Walmarts, Lowe's, big box stores. And I signed up for a Tony Robbins event and went to the Tony Robbins event and bought a kind of date to me, but he was selling a DVD series called Money Masters. And in there, the very first month that I received it was a DVD from Frank Kern on how to sell ebooks where you could teach your parrot how to talk. And I thought, wow, that's crazy. You can use online, you can use the internet to sell stuff and have this big audience. Because for me, I was on the road about 200 days a year pouring concrete. And if it was raining, we didn't work. If it was, bad weather, too cold, we had to do a whole bunch of extra work, all these different things. I thought, man, if I could build something online, my income would be a lot more scalable without having to go through all the problems. And so I started listening to that. And that's kind of what took me into the online world.
Well, that's awesome. So Matt, welcome to the show. Thanks for sharing part of your story. And it's kind of interesting where doing the concrete bit and then you're on rainy days, you're and then you find something online, you're like, oh, this is open all day long, 24/7, 365. And so it's kind of, eye-opening. And so let's get right into it. I love conversion rate. I think it's one of the top KPIs for e-commerce. I think it should be one of the top KPIs for most businesses. But what are some of the top ways what are some of the most effective strategies for improving e-commerce conversion rates that you know of?
It's going to sound funny, but I'm going to tell you it's a paradigm shift, because all of us, and probably the majority of people that we're talking to, are e-commerce store owners or an online business owner. Sure. And we always look at our website as, how can we make more sales? What do I have to do to make more sales? And that's not what the customer comes to your site thinking, how do I go find a site to spend money on? They actually come to your site and say, I have a problem, I'm looking to solve that, or I have a need and I'm looking to find, a way to fill that need. And if you can go to your site as a customer and think oh, what are they looking to solve, or what are they looking to buy? How easy is it to do that? And what you'll find is that little shift will show all kinds of things on your website that aren't working or that are confusing or that are slowing down the process for them to get to what they want to find.
I really, really like that. And so let's say, like, let's break down to that point. What would be some tips and tricks? So let's say we sold water bottles. I don't even know what brand this is, but we sold water bottles. We have a website. We have 3 different types of water bottles, several sizes and colors. What would be something like on the homepage or the landing page that you would recommend, like a high level design on, like what you said, when someone hits your site, they have a problem. They're looking to solve their problem. And so how do you help them do that?
The other thing that I would say is each page has a particular purpose. And so a lot of times, like when you're talking about your homepage is not designed to sell. Your homepage is designed to build trust and then give them easy navigation to what they're looking for. So if you have a water bottle site, so you have, 30 colors or 20 colors and 4 or 5 different designs, when they come there, that's like paradox of choice. So if they can go, oh, I want a pink one, or if they come to the homepage and go, oh, I want a bigger water bottle, or I want a travel size or whatever, kind of break it down into categories and get them onto the category page where you have filters. So once they can filter it down, now instead of having 50 choices, they have 4 or 5. They can find what they're looking for and they'll convert much higher. So we know everything that we do is data driven. The 2 most valuable sources of traffic on your site are the people that use the search bar and the people that use the filters. Those 2 people convert higher and are worth more value per session than anyone else that ever comes to the site. And so by taking those 2 elements, essentially what you're doing is you're taking this big top of funnel area, you're bringing it down to the 3 or 4 things that interest them based off of them choosing, and then they convert much higher.
Before we get too into the weeds, on which I'm very excited about, can we get a working definition of conversion rate? There may be some listeners that are wondering, what exactly are we talking about?
Yes. I won't contradict what you said, but I'll challenge it a little bit. I don't really believe that conversion rate optimization is the most important metric. I believe it's very important, but how you achieve it is probably the caveat that I would say, because we can always give you a higher conversion rate. We could just lower the price of your product and your conversion rate would go up. That doesn't necessarily help you. It might actually even hurt you. So the reason why we coined the term revenue optimization is because we really want to make profit. And so if your whole site is built in a way that from when they land on it till they check out, they have a good experience, that's actually where you're going to achieve. You will get a higher conversion rate, or you could actually even offer, we've raised the price and raised conversion rates before. So we try different things, all different ways.
Very nice. So what metrics should you be focusing? So you had mentioned revenue. When you're looking at your conversion rate and you're trying to move the needle, what are you focused on?
Nowadays, because of the cost of traffic, your average order value is really important. And then knowing how long you can actually spend money in order to acquire customers, knowing how many times they come back and buy a second, third, fourth time. So I would say average order value, repeat customer rate, and then probably third would be your conversion.
And one last question, you had mentioned testing, and that's something that, so on Amazon, they have, it's called the A/B testing program, which is great. So for instance, if you're testing your main image, it'll swap it out multiple times a day. When that is not present, how are you performing those tests?
We use Google Optimizely, and then we're also building our own solution because Optimizely is about to go away. But Optimizely as of right now, it ports all that information into Google Analytics, and we use that with Tag Manager extensively. So that's what we use to do our tests.
So just to pick up off kind of that A/B testing and optimizing. So have you guys, I guess GA4 or Google Analytics 4 has been we just kind of switched over. They kind of deprecated the old one and moved to the new one now. And so some of the stuff in there I've looked at, and some of it looks really cool with the funnels. And it's way more, it's user friendly now where you can kind of look at the entire shopping experience. Are you guys using those tools as well? And do you recommend someone that's not deep deep into optimization on their site to even scratch the surface on that and just take a look at the metrics there?
Yeah, so I would certainly say that if you're not using data, then you're just guessing. And the other thing that I would say is we do this all day, every day. We have about 30 people on our team, and we run tests and are constantly trying to optimize. And I would say probably half or more of our tests fail. Like it either gives no lift or it's worse. And that's us doing this every day. So a regular store owner, if they're not using data, they're really not going to ever know if they change a couple things, if it's helping, hurting, whatever. They're just going to be on this loop of not understanding. And so the data, yeah, you have to use it. What I would say would be a really good thing to do is just set up a report that gets like emailed to you once a week from Google. And it can have like your average site speed on your most landed on pages. So just checking your home page, which is what a lot of people do. They go, oh, I want to check my site speed, and they put in their homepage URL. That's the site speed for your homepage. That's not the site speed for your site. And so every page has it. So just find out like what are your hero products. So it might be 4 or 5 URLs. You plug those in, have it email you once a week the landing page speed is. Another one would be average revenue per user, which they'll give you are repeat customers and first-time buyers. And so once you start looking at those, you'll see trends. Is my site getting slower? Or, oh, all of a sudden this one page dropped. Now you can go look at it and find out what's going on much quicker. Otherwise, you might just go, yeah, our conversion's down, but we have no reason. We don't know why, because everything looks good. The problem is a browser could do an update. So it might be Chrome on an Android device is where your market is, and for some reason that's not displaying good when the new update came out. And you would never know that if you're not tracking, your higher landing pages.
I really like that. And just to dig a little bit deeper on that one now are those reports like inside of GA4, or you're talking like page speed insights, or how do you create those reports like for your hero pages?
Yeah, you can create them right inside GA4, and then Google will actually send you an email. You could have it sent to you every day, every week. My theory is if you had it sent to you every day, after a few days that you didn't look at it, you'll get in the habit of not looking at it. If you send it to yourself once a week, that's more sustainable to take a look and go, okay, I'll spend that 5 minutes and do it. I would much rather have someone looking at it once a week or even once a month than getting it every day and then all of a sudden becoming numb to that email, not looking anymore. And otherwise, all that work that you set up was for nothing.
I like that. I was taking notes. I'm going to set up some of those reports for our hero pages. So one follow-up on the kind of the A/B testing. And so this is something that David and I and our team, we had recently ran a huge test. I would say it was we changed up variations. So we have a brand that sells products that are in multiple designs, like 40 different designs. And so we kind of split it up to test out we thought like, hey, how can we get more sales? Let's try to test splitting this up into maybe 8 designs here of like best sellers, maybe 8 here that are on clearance, and kind of like split it up into like 5 different test groups. And so we ran those, and then after 2 weeks, all of the data was our sales were down between 30 and 50% across the board. And so we backed out. So you and your team do tons of testing with clients. What is your your minimum testing period? And when do you say, let's pull the plug and revert back? Curious.
Yeah, so it's a minimum of 7 days because you can get a lot of false positives or even false negatives in the first few days. Like you might go, oh, wow, this test, killing it. And then by the end of the 7 days, it evens out. So 7 days at least gives you a good list. And then statistical significance. Honestly, most websites don't get enough for statistical significance, and so their tests have to run quite a bit longer. There's a few different ways that you can use what's called design of experiments, which is a mathematical formula to help make predictive. Probably more complicated than the majority of people would want to try to do. Yeah, I would say 7 days minimum.
Continuing that conversation about the tests that we ran, what we did was we ran it for about 2 weeks. So we started the test on the 1st and ran it for the first 2 weeks. What we did was we did a look back. So we said, okay, 2 weeks prior and then 2 weeks post. And we compared those 2 groups. The one thing that was always in the back of my mind was time period bias. So for instance, if that 2 weeks included Black Friday, it may appear to be performing way better. And also there's a lot of different moving parts. So for instance, maybe you go out of stock.
If it's paid traffic, that can change by the day. They could send you a bunch of, they could be testing their top of funnel too, or you could have bot traffic. You could have a whole bunch. So what you did is not actually a A/B test. An A/B test is where you would send half of them to this layout and half to this layout. What I would think you could do if I was trying to think through this myself, there's something called paradox of choice. And so the more choices that you give people, the lower your conversion is. And if you think about it, they'll come and they go, oh, I like this one. I like that one too. And I don't know if I like this one. I have 3 up. My boss just walked up. I got to close the tab, or up. The kids just came. And so what's happening is you almost have this click debt where the more things that you give them to click on or the more choices to make, the longer it takes. And then they go, I'll just come back when I have more time. And so what I would do is I would not just separate the 40 designs that you have. I would look at the 40 designs that you have and find out which 4 of them made 50% of the sales, 60% of the sales. And I would find a way to put that in a category. And then the other ones, doing it that way, I think that you're going to increase your sales for sure, because people don't want to be the first one to try something out. And so if they know that this one has a bunch of reviews or this category has the best sellers, etc., you can create that process in their head of not having to be the first one to buy it.
On the paradox of choice, have you found a sweet spot for number of variations?
Yeah, less than 5 or less.
Okay.
So, and just to give you how we did that, so we have a couple of very large partner stores that are print on demand. So they can give them literally almost unlimited choices. And we've seen as many as 14 or 15 when they first came to us. And I will tell you, 5 or less will convert multiples more. So you could have 14 different choices and colors. You drop it down to 3 or 4 and you'll more than double your conversion rate. It's just insane. People think more is better. More is not better. And it has never proven to be better for us, ever.
Okay. That's really, really helpful.
Yeah. So Matt, if a listener is listening to the show and they're like, they've never ran any tests, they have the Shopify store. A lot of our listeners sell on Amazon, Walmart, and they also probably have a Shopify store. So say they have a Shopify store, they're doing, 5,000, 10,000 a month, and they've never ran any testing on it at all. Split testing, A/B, whatever, nothing for conversion rate. What would be the top first thing to focus on for that?
I would say clarity trumps persuasion. So what I mean by that is you want to look at your site and say, would Homer Simpson understand the navigation? Would Homer Simpson understand this product description? Would Homer Simpson understand the text on the button? Those types of things. People don't realize that most of them, they're answering their own customer service in the beginning too. And so every question they get, they think that's a problem and they go put the answer on the website. Well, now what they've done is they've really made their site navigatable for the 20% of people that have the problems and excluded the 80% of the people that had no problem. And so what they've really done is now all of a sudden for somebody to find what they want, they have to go down this huge list of stuff just to get to where they're going. And a lot of times that's not necessary. The biggest lifts we ever get in conversion, 9 out of 10 times for the first 3-4 months we work on a site, is actually finding what's on the site and removing it that nobody's using.
Basically, simple is better.
Yes, 100%.
I like it. So that's simple. So if you're listening, it's very simple. Just go and make your site simple and solve their problem when they hit the homepage. Direct them to where they can, all the products you have, direct them to exactly how to solve that problem.
So I would say for sure, the very best things that a new store can do is make sure that search really understood where it's at. That little search icon is not actually good enough. So they should put the word search under it. Just like under the hamburger icon, they should put menu. Because if you think about it, before COVID, only about 10% of sales were done online. During COVID, it got as high as 33%. And now that we're back to normal, it's about 27%. People don't realize that online shopping is still we're in the early stages of it. People are just getting online all the time and figuring this out. And so all the things that we take for granted that we understand, they don't. And so that's what I mean by, does Homer Simpson know what this little circle with a dash on it means? Does he know what these 3 lines mean? No. So just put words there. If it says menu, how hard is that to understand? Oh, that's the menu.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the search. And by just adding those little things, you'll be shocked at what it'll do to your conversion rate.
That's incredible. I just want to follow back on that. And one example is we had a meeting in our company a few weeks ago, and I was like, yeah, it's just click the hamburger menu and go down and do that. And the person was like, no. I'm like, I just took for granted from having an IT background that a hamburger menu is the 3 lines. But you're right. Like if I went and asked my parents or some of my siblings who do not have an IT background, they're not going to know what a hamburger menu is. And so putting that menu there sounds complicated. It sounds like, why should we have to do that? But you're right. Would Homer Simpson be able to know what a hamburger menu is? Probably not. So
Right.
I like it. One last question here, and I love statistics, and probably people listening to this are wondering, what is a good conversion rate? And so I'll preface that with, a lot of our listeners sell on Amazon, and so we're anything 10 or below, we troubleshoot. Anything 20 or higher, we are happy. But e-commerce stores, Shopify, WordPress, whatever, different story. So can you maybe give a high level of what is a good conversion rate? And if you're below this, because I know it depends on product type, it depends on a lot of stuff, but what is an average industry specific for e-commerce, and if it's below a certain point, you should troubleshoot, and if it's higher, then you should be happy?
Yeah, that's a loaded question for sure. I would say it depends on your average order value. So if you have an average order value of $50, you probably can convert 5-6%. Average e-commerce is about 2%. So most people don't, but most people obviously haven't went through and simplified their site and cleaned it up and understand all the principles that we're talking about here. So I would say, let me just give another caveat. People go to Amazon to buy. They're not going on, like they know, hey, I need this. They go on, and it's basically they're selecting a choice of which product they're going to get to buy. They're not going on there to like cost compare and all that other stuff. They go there to buy. They don't do that with your store. They typically will visit 2 or 3 competitors, find out, who they trust, who they like. Amazon is taking care of all that for them. So they're not doing that in that environment. So back to the conversion. If you get up to about $100, then I would say, 4% is really good. 3% okay. Anything below that, that you can improve it fairly significantly. And then about $150 average order value, I would say that you should be converting at 3% would be really good. 2 to 2.5 would be okay.
Yeah. Excellent answer, and you're right. It was definitely a loaded question, but you navigated it well.
Yeah, I think what I would love people to recognize is that traffic not their problem. So if your average e-commerce store converts around 2%, most people are like, oh, okay, how do I get more traffic? My thought process is there was 98 people that came to your site. They either typed it in or clicked on an ad and came there and left. If you get 2 more of those, you doubled your business. So why not do that first, become a lot more profitable, and then you can go buy more media than your competitors can, and you win. Most people ignore the fact that if they spent more time fixing the site first and buying traffic second, they would be able to buy a lot more traffic, and definitely a lot more than their competitors.
I totally agree. And customer acquisition is usually how you beat your competitors anyway. And so if you can improve conversion rate, your customer acquisition gets easier. And so last question, and you mentioned it a little bit, Matt, trust. And so you had mentioned, Amazon has taken all that away. You don't have to worry about it. When they go to Amazon, they're there to buy, and they know, like, and trust Amazon. What can you do on your own e-commerce store to get customers to trust you? What are a couple of ways?
So one is certainly reviews. Amazon has pioneered that whole system of reviews. We always encourage people, one of our best practices is to make your review stars the Amazon yellow, because in your mind, you automatically borrow their social proof of like, oh, these are review stars. I feel comfortable. When you try to make it blend in with the color and the theme, it doesn't stand out as like, oh, this is like Amazon, which is what you really do want it to seem like. The other thing that I meant to mention earlier when we were talking about different practices, don't make your button colors match your theme colors. A lot of people, if their site is purple, they make their button purple. Well, the problem with that is you want the button to be the next most valuable action that they perform. Like if they're on your product page, you want them to hit the add to cart. If they're on the cart, you want them to hit the proceed to checkout, and so on. And so always make the button color different than everything else on the page, because then it always stands out. So when I'm on the home page and I go to my category and I get my filter and then I go there, all those buttons should all be the same color, but not match anything else on the site. And that kind of leads them through without them figuring out what to do.
I like that. Is there a specific color that gets a higher click?
No, the only thing that I can tell you that we've tested and it doesn't work well is red. Red online typically signifies there's an error or stop. And so we tend to default to green because green just means go. And most people's theme colors aren't green. And so it stands out and it works.
I really like that. I really like that. And I like that it's tested and delivered to our listeners. So thank you for that. One thing that is, as I think about this, one thing that would be helpful is maybe some examples of companies that do this really well. For instance, like when I'm communicating with our graphics department, I always like to point them in the direction of Anchor, Lululemon, and Dollar Shave. I really like those websites. And from a graphic standpoint, they do an excellent job. And so do you have any examples of large brands that do a really good job here?
I can give you an example of a product that we really like and we work with them and they do a really good job, is Anson belt. It's literally my favorite belt I've ever worn. They do a phenomenal job. They have a lifetime warranty. It's just a great product, and he continues to work on clarifying and making the site better and better, and it uses all of the best practices that we talk about.
Very nice. And that was Anson belt?
Yep, ANSONBELT.com.
Awesome. On that, so actually that is the perfect example for my next question. On things that require an intermediate step like measuring, for instance, like, is this belt going to fit me? Oh, I need to get up from my computer. I need to go get a cloth tape, which I don't have because no one sews these days, and measure my waist. What's the best way to address that where there's an intermediate step that would require like measuring or something like that?
The good thing is that belt doesn't require measuring because you actually trim it once you get it. It's actually really cool. So when you go to the home page, there'll be a couple little caveats right underneath the hero image. And what they say is, see how. And so what we did is we take a poll of all their customers and ask them what was a friction point, or what was one thing that almost kept you from buying. And when we got all those answers and we tabulated them, we ended up going and answering those on that home page. Like one size fits all, that confused a lot of people. How can one size fit all? Well, it's because when you trim it and you put it into the buckle, it's a ratchet belt. And so it has every quarter inch, it's micro adjustable. So there's no holes in it. So it's always the right size. But people didn't, without me explaining that, how do you do that on a website? Well, we put a little see how, they click it, a little window comes up and he plays a video showing how you trim it, and size fits all, one size fits all. And he does that with multiple different things. So essentially what you have to do, again, go back to that Homer Simpson. You understand what you're describing as the seller. Go to your page and look at it as a buyer and be like, oh, okay, am I going to actually understand this, or is it going to confuse me? I always say that the reason someone types in your site, they come to it, and then they don't buy is they either, one, don't trust you, or two, they have an unanswered question. And the problem is most people are raising questions in their customer's mind without answering them. And so when they do that, the person then goes, oh, I need to find out more information before I can make a purchase. Instead of leading them through the sale, if you're trying to say quick add to cart on the homepage, let me ask you a question. And you see it all the time, even on big site. Do you have enough information on that product to make a buying decision when it's a quick ad on the homepage? Unless you're a returning visitor, which should only be about 30% of your customers, then no. If you're buying traffic, 30% returning is good because you're always sending new people there. But if a lot of those things, like people don't understand, when you say quick add to cart, that's a store owner trying to get someone to make a buy. That's not a customer going, oh, I want to make this decision with no information. Yeah, I'll do that.
I like that. My last question here is mobile. A lot of people are shopping on mobile. It seems like when we're laying out websites, we're often looking at it from the perspective of desktop user. And so are there any special considerations or things or pro tips that you have on optimizing a website for both mobile and desktop?
Yeah, the one that we already talked about is labeling everything. So on mobile, you have obviously a lot less real estate. And I could tell you the metric that we use is desktop will convert twice as high as your mobile. So if your mobile is converting at 3%, your desktop should convert at 6% or something's broken with it. And tablet is the same as desktop. So not mobile and tablet, it's mobile, which is a phone, and then desktop and tablets. And desktop and tablet will convert twice as high. Using those metrics, you can see if one is underperforming or not performing well enough. As far as traffic, I would say if you don't have an entire team to help you with it, I would certainly neglect desktop first because 80% of your traffic nowadays is mobile. When we first started this 10 years ago, it was 80% was desktop, 20% was mobile. And now it is literally almost exactly flipped. In fact, I would say that it tends to be about 83%, 84% mobile now instead of 80-20. But so for sure, that's where you need to focus. If you have an entire team, then you can kind of take what's working on mobile and figure out a way to do it on desktop. But you have so much more real estate on desktop to work with. You don't have to worry near as much about things being perfect.
It's kind of an amazing stat. And what you mentioned earlier, Matt, was like, there's so much growth left in e-commerce penetration. It feels like we're in like inning 2 or inning 3.
Yeah.
And so we're in a good space, right? And so, 80% of sales you're seeing coming from mobile. That's pretty incredible. So it's like, what we're kind of sharing with our team is design for mobile and just make sure desktop works. And so just like what you just said. And so I like that. So moving on, a little bit of a deeper question here. Can you define customer segmentation? And then can you share with the audience, like, is this something you would recommend doing and only if you had paid media or organic traffic? Can you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah. So it depends on how much data you have. Typically the brands that we're working on personally have a lot of data. And then in our membership, those are the smaller stores that are benefiting from what we teach to grow. The more data you have, the better. I would segment your data by how many times someone has bought from you. So people that bought 5 or more, people that bought 4 or more, 3 or more. Each one of those is a different level of fan. And so you can treat them differently and you can ask the people that have bought from you 5 or more times great questions that will help you make your site work better. Actually, I'm going to give you a little nugget and then I'll go back to this. I would tell you that one of the smartest things that we've ever done is put a little survey on the thank you page that asks the question, what is one thing that almost made you not buy? And what happens is all the people that just spent money with you will answer, oh, well, this, or oh, well, that, or this wasn't clear. And when you do that, they are telling you what to go work on your website in order to make more sales. And some of our largest wins on the majority of our sites come from the answers there because those are your buyers. And they're telling you what was hard for them to understand or what was a friction point. So now going back to how you segment, you can ask them questions and you can treat them differently. One of the things that I notice is, we'll give our first time buyers 10% off. To me, I think in my head, if I'm a customer and I come back and I see that I've already bought from you, why are you not giving me 10% off? You're willing to give that to a stranger, but not someone I'm coming back to buy again. So like wording things different or finding a better way to offer discounts. I would much rather give the discount to the person that's bought 5 or more times than the first time buyer. You could say free shipping on your first purchase. Then you haven't devalued the cost of your product, but you've given them an incentive that doesn't say, hey, we're just going to mark down our profit because we have it and it's already baked in there for us to do that. So there's a lot of different things that you can do. During that segmentation, I would actually treat each level of customer better than the previous one, or I'd give them more options to do business with you.
I really like that. In-house, we do, I think it's 5 or more purchases. We segment into a VIP club and we treat them different. We give them different coupons and stuff.
I bet if you look and see what the customers from that VIP club rank as far as like what percentage of your income from the entire site, it's so astronomically bigger than your first time users. The mentality that people have of, yes, you always need to be putting new ones in there, not at the expense of the people that continue to come back and buy from you. Treat those people really good. That's your highest profit margin. Your first time customers, most of the time you're breaking even on them.
Yeah, especially if you're driving, if you're paid media, and so cost of customer acquisition, and so keeping those lifetime customers, you're just increasing the lifetime value. One thing that you mentioned is something we're not doing. I was feverishly writing down here. We're not doing that on the thank you page, which we're going to be doing that soon. And then also on our VIP emails, we're not asking them questions, which those they have the most experience on our site checking out and shopping. So I'm going to create a form and send it out to the VIPs. What could we do better and get that information, because they have the most experience purchasing, right?
Yeah, and think about the referral that someone who's bought from you 4 times, 5 times already compared to someone that, first time on your site or second time on your site. So having some sort of incentive for your super fans to tell other people about it is a great idea, and they'll love to do it because they're already comfortable. So they get social capital with their friends because they've included a brand that they know, like, and trust when they told their friends about it.
Awesome. As we've gone through this interview, Matthew, I'm starting to think of you as a website doctor. And I'm going to make an analogy here. If you were to ask a pediatrician, like if you draw a pie chart of what people come in for, they'd probably say, okay, strep throat, the flu, and a physical for school makes up 80% of why people come to see me. And so I think you've got a really cool perspective in that you have a lot of patients, meaning you have a lot of websites that you're looking at. So what would be those top 3 for issues? When people come to you, you're like, this is what's wrong.
Yeah, I think, like I said, first off, going to it from I would say simplicity. So for sure, if you have a form that takes 30 pages to fill it out, when you get there, how happy are you going to be by the time you see the doctor? It's just a pain in the butt. And so if your site is a pain in the butt to work with or to find what they're looking for, that's going to be an issue. So I think navigation is key. The second thing that really helps boost conversions is high quality pictures. So if they can see what they're buying and it looks like a very good quality picture, they're going to automatically trust and insinuate, okay, this is good quality. If you have fuzzy pictures or you have way too many. So I go to a lot of sites where I see they have like 30 thumbnails or 20 thumbnails, and people think, again, more is better. Actually, what you're doing is you're hurting because they're clicking on all these different thumbnails to think, oh, what am I missing? What have I not seen? Why do I need to see so many? So have your product, maybe have a lifestyle shot of it, and then maybe some technical things about it that are unique value propositions. So between those, that gives you the ability to, 1, it looks high quality, 2, easy navigation, and probably the third one would just be functionality. Like, it's amazing how many sites we go to and you hover over the menu and all of a sudden it covers up half the site, or you click zoom and it's like showing you the right shoulder, and when you try to move it around, like, you can never get to the center where you're trying to look. And so a lot of times people, they're looking at their site on desktop and it works great, but if they would go look at it on mobile, they would realize it's horrendous. And so that's the other thing. Stop checking your website on a desktop and start looking at it on your phone.
Got one last question. I know we could probably talk about this for a long time, but I definitely want to be respectful of your time, Matt. And so last question that I have, and this is in terms of, like, I guess just your experience with working with clients. Have you seen, and this is also a loaded question, have you seen a better platforms? So people always say, like, what platforms, like, so we have Wix, Shopify, WooCommerce, Magento, all of these platforms that you can have your e-commerce store on. Is there one that you recommend that you've worked with so many clients that maybe one platform stands out that just crushes it, or is it easy to, bring up conversion rates? What is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's definitely Shopify. They've become the 800-pound crown gorilla in the space. So we switch over a lot of large clients that were on like BigCommerce or WooCommerce. And when we get them migrated onto Shopify, even with identical site, it will still convert better. The only reason why I could make that, because essentially we have to make a hypothesis. Why does that happen? It's the same site. What's going on? Well, maybe it's so many people have already purchased with the standard navigation of, add to cart, proceed to checkout, enter your information, then your shipping, then complete the sale. They're comfortable with that process. And so when you have a different platform that's customizable or different, they now have to think through the steps. And every time that you make them think, that's an exit point. That's a place where there's friction. And so prototypical does matter. Your menu navigation should be in the center, and it should be money-making links, not about us and, all these other things that people put up there, home button, those things are all distracting. People know if they click on the logo, they're going to go to the home. Having another home button, you're literally getting rid of some of your most valuable real estate, which should be money-making links. And so Shopify has done a really good job of making things very simple, and their new 2.0 themes are great. Yeah, I would just say for sure, if you're getting started, Shopify is a great place to start.
I lied. I do have one quick follow-up question on that one. Organic traffic. We focus a lot on organic traffic, and we drive content and we drive social media all to our WordPress site. And WordPress seems to work better with Google Analytics and ranking. And so in your experience, if migrating clients from WordPress to Shopify, what happens to organic ranking and traffic, organic traffic?
Yeah, we have quite a team. So we make sure that all the redirects are correct and doing that. There is a certain amount that it'll drop off for a little bit and then come back. So yeah, you have to know that ahead of time, and we let them know. Or you can just use your WordPress traffic and then direct them to your store.
All right, before we get to the fire round, can you tell us a little bit more about Build, Grow, Scale and what type of clients you like to work with?
Yeah, so we actually have two parts of our business. One is where we partner with you and do all of the data, the split testing, the developer work, et cetera, and make the site grow and scale. That's really what those two metrics stand for. And then we have a membership that you can join that's monthly. And what you do in that group, it's a Shopify store owners. The majority of them are Shopify store owners. We teach them what we're doing and what's working right now. So we're using the principles and tactics that we're finding on the larger brands and then sharing that in the group of store owners that couldn't, they really can't have us 5 guys on their team and spend the money to do that. And so a lot of times those store owners grow up and become our partners later on down the road.
Awesome. I like how you have a split between, it's kind of something for everyone. So yeah, that's great. Okay, Matthew, are you ready for the fire round?
Sure.
What is your favorite book?
Probably The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson.
Excellent. What are your hobbies?
I like to cycle. I definitely, for a lot of my life, I was into skydiving. I have about 500 skydives and motorcycles.
Okay. A thrill seeker. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What is one thing that you do not miss about working for the man?
Someone else telling me when I can take a vacation or not.
That's a great one. Last question. What do you think sets apart successful e-commerce entrepreneurs from those who give up, fail, or never get started?
Discipline. I would liken that to staying in shape and exercising. There's a lot of days that I don't feel like doing it. And if you do it anyways, those are the days that matter the most. And so the ones that I see that succeed have discipline, and they follow that discipline rather than their feelings, because we never say, hey, do this and you're going to make $1 million, because there's a lot of do this that you have to do. And so you just have to have the daily discipline to do it. And that's what's going to make you successful over time.
Excellent advice.
Yeah, Matt, if people are interested in working with Build, Grow, Scale, what would be the best way to get in contact?
BuildGrowScale.com, or they can email me at matt@buildgrowscale.com.
Awesome. And we will post links to both of those in the show notes. Matthew, I want to thank you for being a guest on the Firing the Man podcast, and looking forward to staying in touch.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for watching this video. If you got some value out of this, would you please hit the like and subscribe button? This is a free way to support the show, and it really helps us build our audience.